What's going on, everybody? It's Brian Trippe. I'm here in Birmingham, Alabama. Welcome to another episode of the REI Live podcast, Real Estate Investing Live. So excited you decided to join us today. We've got a great guest I'm very excited to get to. This is episode number 98. We're 98 interview shows in, closing in on that 100 mark. I started this about almost 2 years ago, and it's crazy to think that I've been able to interview 98 rock star real estate investors, marketing gurus, business builders throughout this time. So I'm very fortunate. I'm very thankful to you, the audience, who've just kind of stuck with me throughout this time and been with me all this time. So I really do appreciate you guys, and especially going through the rebrand that we went through. We are now Real Estate Investing Live. So I'm excited to dig in to this episode. We have a good friend of mine, Mr. Kevin Easterly. How's it going today, Kevin?
Hello, what's up? How you guys doing out there? Coming in from San Diego.
From San Diego, California. I met Kevin. Kevin, you got to help me, man. I think it was the spring of 2014.
Yeah, around there on that show. All right, that Frank and Dave event.
So we went to the mobile home. I just showed up at this mobile home park boot camp, and I didn't own a mobile home park. I didn't even have a whole lot of money. I just showed up at this thing. I just wanted to learn, and I met this guy, Kevin Easterly. We kind of hit it off right off the bat because you were like, "Oh, you live in Alabama? I've got a mobile home park in Alabama." I was like, "Oh, wow."
Yeah,
good,
man.
Good memories, huh?
Yeah, that mobile home park, man. So I guess let's get right into that.
Let's get into it. So let's get into that, because I think that it's really important for people to hear the good, the bad, the ugly when it comes to real estate investing. You had a challenging obviously, we're going to talk about all the success that you've been having with multifamily. We're going to talk about how you've been building your brand. We're going to talk about a lot of really cool things. We're going to talk about the hat that you're wearing. If for my YouTube audience, the 10X lifestyle, the Grant Cardone lifestyle. We're going to talk about all that. But let's just dig into the negative. Let's dig into all the bad stuff first, man. Tell a story about the mobile home park you had in Anniston.
So I was sold on the idea to buy this mobile home park by a man named what was his name? I forget, but he invested in mobile home parks, and he sold me on, hey man, we're gonna go buy it. It's gonna do owner financing or seller financing, and I'll run the park for you for $300 a month. I got it, no problem. You're gonna make money. Sold me the dream, and I'm like, sweet man, what do I have to do? And he's like, just give I think it was like 80 grand down, and that was it. And everything was going to be hunky-dory. I was like, sweet. So I went out there, a guy picked me up, took me to the airport, or picked me up from the airport, took me over to the mobile home park. I was like, wow, this thing's definitely ghetto. But I'm like, all right, man, if it makes money, let's roll. I didn't know, not investing in the hood is a bad idea. Or I didn't know that was a bad idea. So anyway, I buy this mobile home park, and this was prior to going to that show. And then it just was a money pit, man. It was like every month was just more money going into it. And then not being there and being absent. I mean, the manager was a drug dealer, and I mean, it just had all the bad stories, and I owned all the mobile homes. So it was just one thing after another. And they would tell me stuff was broken and it wasn't. So they'd just be stealing money from me. So yeah, man, that was a full money pit. And then I met you. And then I realized everything I did was wrong. I realized everything I did on that park was wrong. So that was interesting. So at the show, I remember sitting with Frank at the dinner table with you. And he's like, yeah, man, just sell that thing. I'm like, son of a gun. So I had you go help me out, walk the thing and check it out. And it wasn't salvageable. So I ended up, I bought it for 100, I think 120 down, or I right around 100 grand. And I probably put 30 grand into it over a year. And, I sold it for 15 grand and assumed the loan So I lost about 100 grand in a year. And that was like pretty much all the money I had. So I was really stressed. And then the franchise thing came about, and that kind of helped me out.
Yeah. So let's talk about the specifics, because you bought the mobile home park, and then you went to the boot camp on how to buy a mobile home park.
They call that the cart before the horse.
Yes. Just talk about that for a second. Just like why did you even go to did you were just like, well, I bought this thing. I'm not doing maybe I should be doing a couple of things a little bit better. Let me go to this boot camp to try to figure out how to do things better. Is that why you went to it?
Yeah, I was trying to salvage an investment. I was trying to figure out how to make money on it and how to not lose. I'm like, maybe I should go to this guy's show.
Yeah. So the funniest thing to me, you mentioned it. We went to dinner like the first or second night that we were there at that 3-day thing down in Orlando. And the guy who's running it, Frank Rolfe, who we've had on the show, by the way. So you guys need to go back and listen to, he's the mobile home park expert. Go back and listen. It's probably episode 20 or 30. It's way, way back. But he was like, everything that you said to him, he was like, oh, no, that's not the way you do it. Like everything, like to a T. So the thing I remember the most about that conversation, because I think he was in the middle and you were on one side of him, I was on the other side of him. I was just listening to the whole story and it was just fascinating to me. Obviously it wasn't fascinating to you, but the one thing I remember the most about what he said was basically you got duped and you need to find someone to dupe to get it off your hands. That's what he said.
He was like, man, just sell it. He's like, just if you can walk away and not lose any money, just sell it. And I'm like, damn it. I was so bummed because I hate failing at anything. And so that was really like my first failure. But I mean, it was about $100,000 lesson. So I learned a lot.
So let's fast forward now. So you said the $100,000 to you at the time was a lot of money. It was a big chunk of money to lose. A lot of people, Kevin, that's going to knock them down and it's going to take them completely out of the game. It's going to say, I hate real estate. I'm never going to get into real estate ever again. But for you, it's been the exact opposite. You've taken that lesson and really kind of flourished. What was it specifically just about your mindset that allowed you to keep going?
So, I mean, yeah, man, you got to just shake it off and take what I knew that was the path. I knew multifamily is the path and all these people are doing, and that's the end game for me, for myself personally. So instead of just getting discouraged, like you said, I went and I started studying about multifamily and really, going to these shows before I bought multifamily back in the day, because I just learned my lesson on the trailer park. I am a little tainted on trailer parks still. I know there's a lot of money to be made in them, but I have not bought another one since. I'm in the apartment business now. So yeah, man, I think just going and learning and making sure you know what you're doing. And then, I mean, that's when it's time to go and get a mentor, have somebody help you out that knows what they're doing. I mean, that would have been so helpful. If I met you and you had your knowledge of the mobile home park before I did this, man, imagine how great that'd be. You would have told me not to buy it.
Yeah. So I went and, we both kind of from 2014 till today, we've both kind of totally different trajectories, but we've both kind of really, taken that next step or two or three in our real estate investing careers. And I did go and buy a mobile home park after I went to the Frank and Dave boot camp. I went and bought a mobile home park, had some success immediately with it as far as cash flow goes. And I remember you contacted me when you asked me to help you. And it was just one of those things where I was like, man, this is like above my, scope of knowledge, because mine was city water, city sewer. And that's the one thing my biggest takeaway from Frank when he was talking those 3 days is, look, if you're new and you've never bought one before, you've got to do city water, city sewer. Anything else, you're going to have headaches. You're going to have, a lot of trouble. Don't get into the other stuff. And so I went and looked at yours and I met with the city. I really tried. I really did for like a few weeks, was really trying to help you and turn that thing around. It had septic tanks and it did have city water, but there were leaks everywhere. So I met with the city. I met with the septic inspectors, and the one thing one of the septic inspectors said to me that those septic tanks were like 80 years old or something. They're made out of cinder block and they're leaking everywhere. And you got to replace 43 or 40, however many. You got to replace all the septic tanks or spend $200K to get the sewer line to come all the way up to the park. And it was just like, Kevin, look, do you want to sink another 200 or 300K into this thing? And you're like, hell no.
Yeah. And I found somebody to buy, and that same guy that sold me, it actually sold to somebody else. So good for him. I hope they were doing great on it. I would love to go down there and see it soon. That'd be awesome. So
it probably hadn't changed.
Yeah. So that thing scarred me for a little bit. And so what I did is I went and started learning about the multifamily business, and I went and I got a mentor. I got a partner that knew more about the game than I did. And we went and bought the first 57 unit.
So let's talk about that. How did you do that? Because you just got done saying that you didn't have a whole lot of money to lose, and you lost it. How are you able to go buy a 57 unit when, this thing kind of really hits you hard at that moment? And this is where maybe our audience can get some value, because I'm sure obviously you're not putting up all the cash. You have partners, you have investors, you have sponsors, you have all these things. I want to get into all that because there's a lot of people that are on this show, they're listening to this right now, that don't really know how that whole world works. So let's talk about that first deal you did.
So let me back up. So after the mobile home park, I had a video business. That was my main business. And the video business, I was making money, and then my brother was actually doing single family flips. And so I was giving him 25 grand. He would just give me back 45 grand. I was like, that was sweet. And I wasn't even doing anything. And then I started learning it with him. And then he's like, why don't we buy these fourplexes in Vegas? So we started buying these fourplexes and financing them, single family financing, these fourplexes. And I thought that was the road to riches. And I'm like, I had 12 units, I think 3 fourplexes or 4 fourplexes. And I was like, man, I'm retired. I'm done. And we found out apartments is the way to go. So between the mobile home park and the apartments, we had those fourplexes. So I sold all those fourplexes, and that's where I had a few $100 grand. And I went in with a couple of partners on that deal. 2 partners on the 57 unit in Vegas.
Well, let's talk about the 57 unit.
We didn't save money for it. We just used our money for it.
So, okay. So you all went in, you all chipped in. How did you find the deal? How did you learn how to pull the money? Where did you find the other investors? Just tell us the specifics of the deal.
So my brother was one of them, and his partners, the money was one of the other money guys. He doesn't really know much about the multifamily, so it was me and my brother running the deal. We actually found the deal on LoopNet, ran the numbers, went and walked it with the realtor, and was like, okay. And it was a value add play. And I saw a Starbucks across the street. So I was like, well, it can't be that. They do a lot of research, and they spend a lot of money putting those Starbucks in the right spots.
For sure.
So we went there, and it's the same thing as a fourplex, man. It's like nothing to be scared about. That's the biggest thing. They have this vision in their head, like, oh my God, that's huge. How do you even imagine? But it's really not that. It's not much different than the principles of a fourplex or an eightplex. You're doing the same thing. You're doing paint, you're doing the interiors, the rehab. You just got to do your numbers. Use one of those analyzers. A couple people have analyzers out there that are really good, and they help you with everything. So we found the deal, and then we had enough experience through our flips and our prior stuff, and that mobile home park actually helped me out because I had multifamily experience to get the loan. Yeah. So that's how we got the first one, and that was the value of the play.
So you got the loan, just a traditional loan from a traditional bank.
Correct.
And so talk about that. What was that?
Freddie Mac loan, sorry.
Gotcha. So talk about that for the people that don't understand it, and even for me that I don't really understand as well, because you talked about fourplexes, and there's a big difference. It's a different animal going. And I understand that it's just, add a zero and the numbers it's really kind of the same, but it is a different animal when it goes from residential to commercial, because you're talking about a fourplex is actually technically residential. And anything 5 and higher is commercial. So talk about that. When you go in to get a loan like that from a traditional source, like from a bank, from a government-backed loan, what did you need to do? You said you had some experience and that helped. You obviously had to put a certain amount down. How much did you have to put down? Give us the numbers and walk us through that exact deal, if you don't mind.
Okay, so no problem. When you do a commercial loan, they do a lot of it based on the building itself. It's like buying a business when you're in the commercial area. So they look a lot on the building. They'll underwrite the building. They'll go inspect the building, and they'll make sure that's something that they want to invest in. A bank, Freddie Mac, whoever it is. And then what you need three things. You need money. You need the money for the down payment. So this one was $4 million. So I think it's 30% down is a good judge. That's what a lot of banks want.
So they're not, so 70% LTV loan to value ratio is what most banks are looking for.
Yeah. So if you're coming into a commercial, you got to have, that's why people raise money for it, because they go into these couple $1 million deals, and you have to have 30% down instead of a normal single family that's like 5% or 10% down you can do. So you need money, and you need experience. So they look at your prior experience, and as shitty as that mobile home, sorry, I mean, because as crappy as that mobile home park was, I had experience in multifamily for the loan. So they saw that. And so they're like, okay, cool. And it's a story. You're building a story to the commercial real estate. So we had one person that had experience, which is myself. And then we had multiple fix and flip experience through my brother. So that's how you build your team. And then you have the money. You know, you can either go raise money or use your own money or whatever the case is. And then you just tell the bank the story of what's going on, what you're going to do with the property, what your experience is. And that's literally how it goes down.
So you got to have the money, and you got to. What about credit? I've heard that really your personal credit is not as big of a deal as the deal itself. Talk about the credit situation.
I mean, if you get a government loan, Freddie or Fannie, they're going to be a little more hardcore on your credit. I just got dings at a parking ticket on there, and they asked me what that was, but you just tell them it was a parking ticket. So they're pretty strict. But local banks are always a good way to go, because local banks, you can literally go in there and have a conversation with the underwriter, and they're like, look, man, I'm gonna do this. And if they like you, they'll lend to you.
Yeah. It's a great story, and it's a great lesson, I think. And then you said that the fact that you had experience, even though the experience might have been a little bit rough, actually helped you. Now be honest, did you tell them the full story of what happened with the mobile home park, or did you just say, oh, I had a mobile home park?
I just said I had a mobile home park.
Okay.
I left the other part
All
out.
right. So
they don't need to know everything. They just tell them what they ask.
So in other words, they don't need to get a hold of this podcast.
Yeah. Yeah, true. I might be bad.
Okay.
Yeah, man. So that's really it. I mean, you're telling a story in the commercial area. And then, I mean, if you don't have the experience, then you can go get somebody to sponsor it that has experience if they want to sign on the loan. And that way that will get your feet in the door. So then now your name's on a commercial loan. And that's the best way to start if you're starting out.
So let's talk about that, because it's a great segue into my next question, because I'm not in the multifamily space really at all. I have that mobile home park that's under contract to sell, but it was owner financing. So I didn't really have to go through a traditional lender, and I've never gone through a traditional lender actually for something that's more greater than 4 units. So I want to ask you about that, because I've heard about like getting someone to sponsor a deal with you. What does that mean? And how might you find someone to do that?
So if you're just starting out and you want to get into the multifamily, then you are going to probably need a sponsor, somebody, because a bank will lend to somebody that has experience. That's what a sponsor is. Sometimes they bring money in, sometimes they just sign on the loan, and that way you can get the loan. So if you have John over here that has 100 units and he signs on the loan for this 50 unit that you're trying to buy, that's all you need. Not the sponsor. And then you give them a percentage you usually give them like, I don't know, up to 10% of the deal for signing on the loan. And a lot of them are non-recourse. So, I mean, it's not a whole lot of risk to the guy. But yeah.
Kevin, what does that mean? I know what it means, but I want to make sure our audience means, what does non-recourse mean?
Non-recourse means that they can't come after you if the property, they take the property back, and they can't come after your personal assets.
Right. So when you're signing, you're not a lot of times when I were to buy a single family residence, just through a traditional lender, which I've done multiple times, they're always recourse loans. Even if you buy it in the name of an LLC, what that means is you're personally going to be responsible for the loan. If something were to happen, if you were to default, they're coming after you. In this case, if it's non-recourse, which most commercial loans are non-recourse, if it's non-recourse, that means they're not concerned about you. They don't want to come after you. And that's why a lot of them don't worry about your credit, because it doesn't even matter about you. They're going to come back and repossess that deal. They're going to get that deal.
That's why they go through so many hoops about the deal, and they want to explain what's going on. Because if they want the deal, they want the property if you don't pay. So exactly, they don't want to take a pile of crap.
So Kevin, you got the 57 unit. Do you still have that, by the way? Is that your long-term strategy, is to hold these things?
It is my long-term strategy to hold it, but we sold it. So we bought a 42 unit, and that 57, we bought it for $4 million. And we put $100,000 into it. And a year later we got offered 5.1. So, I mean, it was a great deal, and we're like, all right, fine, let's do it. So I flipped my portion and went and bought a 32 unit just recently with the money I got out of it.
Gotcha. And I know we're going to talk about some franchise because you're a franchise owner as well. We're going to talk about that in a second. But aside from the franchises, is that your current real estate holdings today? Is the 30 something
I
unit
got
that
100,
you?
105 units total right now.
Okay, talk about where are they? How, maybe is there a story in there of one in particular that it was a really great deal, how you got it, something like that?
Yeah, so they're all in Arizona and Nevada because that's an hour flight away from my house, which I learned also on the Alabama deal that it's not the easiest just to swing over to Alabama, especially in the freaking middle of nowhere. So
Anniston is literally, if anyone's listening to this podcast and doesn't know much about Alabama, Anniston is literally halfway between Atlanta and Birmingham. So it's probably easier to fly into Atlanta and drive over to Anniston that way. But
that's what I did. Yep, that's what I
yeah,
did. So yeah, I got 105 units. So we took that 57 unit and we sold that, and then I went and purchased 32 on my on my own. We have a 42 and a 30. I'm also partners on with two other people. So I have 105 units total. So one of them, a good tip is how to find properties is I talked to my property manager, and the property manager said, hey, this guy is getting ready to get divorced. I think he was going to want to sell. And I was like, okay, cool. Literally called the guy up and said, hey, you want to sell your property? Boom, went off market. I sold through off market.
that's awesome.
And it was great. And the rents were low. And that's the best value add you can have. The thing was already rehabbed, but the rents were low because the guy was out of the country. So I went in there and the rents were $750. It was a 32 unit. I raised them to $1,000, not even touching anything, which makes the value worth way more. So I got it for 2.8, and it's probably worth 3.2 right off the gate. And then we're taking the office, and it doesn't need an office because it's 32 units. Usually you only have an office when you have like 50 or above, a full-time office. So I'm taking the office and I'm converting it into 2 units, 2 studios. And that's going to cost me like 30 grand, and they're going to get 700 a piece for them, which is 1,400 a month. And the value on that is probably going to be about $90,000 add value.
That's awesome.
Grand. I hope that all makes sense. Sorry.
No, it does make sense. And I don't want to gloss over what you said. I think it's an incredible tip, not just for multifamily, because we got a lot of people who are listening that are single family. A lot of people listen to this like wholesale. So what you just said is a great tip for anyone who's listening to this is talk to property managers, especially property managers who you may already be using or ones that you know and trust, and the ones that know and like and trust you. So you can talk to, I've done this numerous times. And one of the big questions is how do you build your buyers list to be bigger? Because we do a lot of wholesaling. We get a lot of off-market stuff that we would want to sell to someone like you, Kevin. And if it's a great deal, you would definitely want to know about it. But we go to property managers and ask them, hey, if we get a great deal, we'll either JV with them, or sometimes they'll just give us their couple to, hey, this guy's looking to sell, or these 2 or 3 guys are looking to buy. So look, I want to manage their property. So go and talk to these 2 or 3 guys because go sell them a couple properties because I want to manage more properties. So a lot of times they'll actually be willing to give you some of this information if you just ask, and if they know you and they like you.
Yeah. And that's exactly it. I was like, hey, you got any other properties I'm looking to buy? And I mean, I was just out there a week ago, and I was walking with the property manager, and she's like, oh, I have a property 16 unit right around the corner. And I was like, sweet. I'm like, why don't you ask the guy if he wants to sell? He asked me he didn't want to sell right now, but I'm like, just keep on hitting them and keep on asking them, and he might come around the corner and say, yeah, I'll sell. So totally. That's the best way. That's a great, I mean, instead of just go to LoopNet and look and then get frustrated because it's already ran through, you gotta work. You gotta try, man. You gotta, take action. Like, these people think it's just going to come to them on a manifestation, and they got to put the work out there. They got to go call people. They got to pick up the phones. You got to call the realtors. You got to bluff them a little bit and tell them you're in the area, and tell them you're a buyer in the area. That's what I always tell them, even if I'm not, and then if you need more experience, then go find somebody that has more experience and get them to help you call the first couple of times to get what you need.
It's awesome. That's great advice. And I love that you said bluff and not lie.
I know what I'm talking about. I'm talking to those down southers right now.
And you mentioned something too, Kevin. I think that this is important as well. You said you're buying right now in Arizona, Nevada, some places that are close to you, but obviously California prices are going to be crazy, but so are Phoenix, Arizona, so are Arizona prices, so are Nevada prices. Talk about just being local and just kind of buying closer to where you live. You kind of alluded to that a little bit, and just talk about the importance of that.
So if something happens at your property, which I learned again with the mobile home park, you can't just drop the hat, just head over there and go. And if it's 1 hour flight, 3 hour drive, whatever it is, you can just hop over there in the morning and come back and be back by night. So people with families, I have a coach and he tells me with his family, he loves to be there and back for the day, like a work day. So he doesn't want to leave his family for more than 2 days. And it's just really convenient. It's nice to have it right there. And so, I mean, if something goes down on my property, I have to be there for, I could drive out there tonight and be there, which is amazing.
Awesome. That's great. And it's a great tip too. And hopefully you've set up some systems and processes where that's not happening all the time, but every once in a while we definitely need to, like, I haven't visited my mobile home park in probably 8 months and I live 20 minutes away.
You're crazy, man.
Hey, we get in the business for those reasons, right?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, those are owners. So another thing too, real quick, to find properties, if you're just starting out, is go around, and if you see a property that's distressed looking and not like the people don't care, that's a good sign that they probably are over it and they'll sell if the right price comes along. So, if the weeds are all overgrown on the front and there's crap all over and that means they stop caring. That's a good way to find properties too. And you can go to the tax assessor's office and find the owner info on them.
Great stuff. Yeah, we've got videos on how to do that as well on our REI Live YouTube channel. Yeah, it's great tips. Anytime you're driving around, you see houses with overgrown weeds, you've got windows busted out, you got something like that. There's obviously some sort of situation going on. Contact owners. We're cold calling a lot of people right now, so great tips, Kevin. Talk about your franchises too, because you're a business builder. You just have had an entrepreneurial spirit about you. It seems like your whole life, you have the video business, now obviously real estate, but you're also buying and investing into franchises, which is another good, I don't want to call it passive, because I don't know if I totally believe that things are passive, but it's another revenue stream for you.
Correct.
So talk to the person out there who is in real estate and they've got some real estate, but they might want to diversify a little bit and start getting into franchises. How did you get into it, and what should we look for if we want to invest in a franchise?
All right. So yeah, franchises. I mean, it's funny, man. I just, kept connection with an old buddy, and we were at the bar one day just having a beer, and he's like, yeah, man, my dad just bought these franchises, these Pilates franchises, Club Pilates. And he's like, you interested in buying some from them? I'm like, let me see the numbers, So I looked at the numbers. I didn't know anything about the franchise business. I didn't even know what Pilates was. And I looked at the numbers and I'm like, sweet, I'll buy 3. Because I just had sold a property at one of the fourplexes. So I had a little bit of cash, bought 3. And his mom thought I was nuts. And she's like, I'm not letting you buy 3. I'm like, give me 3. I'll take it. I'll figure it out. Took the first one, started figuring it out. And franchise is nice because you have help. You have corporate help. So like I can have my manager call corporate if they need something, if you need to do business cards, if you need to do anything for materials, just go on the site and print them out. It's already done. Like when I used to own my own video business, I would have to do all that, everything. So franchises are nice. They usually charge 7% a month for being a franchise, but they build the name for you. They do a lot of stuff for that 7%. So it's really cool. So I learned that whole business. And
you still have those today, the Pilates franchises?
Yep, 3 in Colorado.
Because it sounds like you just kind of, the way you're telling the story, it sounds like, give me 3.
Yeah. Well, the first one took me 2 years to figure out. And then I built the second one. I built it from the ground up. So I went with the architect and designed them all and everything. And second one I did 2 years later. And then the third one I did a year after that. So it took me 2 years. It took me a good year to make money on it. And I kept, my payroll was really low because I didn't want to pay anybody and I didn't want to market, which advertising and marketing is completely essential. So I learned that, and then I started making good money on it. The company got sold, and now they have 950 in the U.S. I bought there at 60. So it's a big franchise, Club Pilates, and it's been really good, especially when I'm doing the multifamily value adds where you're not making any money and putting it all back into the property.
Mm-hmm.
And this is good because it's like a cash machine coming in, making me live. So
you've got all 3 of them up and cash flowing pretty well.
Correct. Yeah. 2 of them are cash flowing well, and then the third one is a couple grand a month.
Getting there. is this a situation where you're adding value, or they might appreciate? Are these things that you could sell for a higher price later down the road, or not really? It's more just
Yeah.
a cash flow type of thing.
No, you can sell them for sure. Some of them are being sold. I bought mine for 50 grand for 3 franchises, just for the rights. And then I built each one of them out for about 150 grand each. So they're about a $200,000 investment for these ones particular. And yeah, they're cash flowing like 10 to 12 grand a month, each one net. And then, sorry, what'd you ask me? I forgot.
No, that's huge. I was just asking, is there any kind of like, if they continue to grow and they continue to expand and they go from, 900 to maybe they doubled to like 2,000 franchises? Cause I don't even think there's anything like that exists over here. So
Yeah,
maybe
they're killing it.
There is one in Birmingham?
Yeah.
Okay.
You obviously don't go to it. No.
Obviously. but if they expand and they continue to expand, and now there's like 2,000 or 3,000 of them, is there any kind of appreciation that you could get on something like that? You're all in for 200, maybe you could sell it for 400,000 or 500,000 down the road, or is that not even something you're thinking about?
100%. Yeah. So they're selling. I mean, I'm gonna sell them in probably about 10 years. That's my play. So right now they're just feeding my real estate. You can sell them for a 5 multiple of net income. So some of them are being sold for 750 right now. So it's a pretty solid investment if you know how to run it. There's owners that don't know what the heck they're doing. And, your franchise is not just a business in a box, turn the key and make money at all. It's a business. And so I'm running them from afar, but I had to pay people out there to do, to manage them. So you need 3. Yeah, it's not easy. Like I'm currently acquiring franchises called Cycle Bar, CYCLEBAR. And I'm currently acquiring those from owners that did not know how to run them, that are failing. I'm taking them over and putting my system into them, which I learned how to do, the system part.
Wow.
So we have 8 of those. We have 8 Cycle Bars now, 3 Club Pilates, and 105 units so far in the hopper.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, man.
So your goals moving forward, what are you looking to try to accomplish here when it comes to franchises and acquiring more real estate doors?
So we're probably going to pick up another 30 franchises this year or next year.
30?
30, yeah. We're just proving our system right now, and then we're going to get investors and go to the next level. So we're looking at probably doing 30 more next year. And then that should be spitting out cash flow to be buying $40 million a year in property on our own, is the numbers. So that number comes out to a couple $100,000 net a month is what that's going to be from the franchises. And then we're going to build a fund I just put all the money in a fund and start buying multifamily as we go. And then probably have 1,000 units in, I don't know, maybe 5 to 2 years, maybe 2 years.
That's incredible. That's incredible. So I want to ask you about the hat, because I mentioned this in you started a Facebook group. What's the Facebook group, by the way? If people are interested in multifamily, how can they join your Facebook group? What's the name of it again?
Yeah, man, they can go to I set up a website to go directly to it, 10x.kevineasterly.com. I don't know if you could throw that on the screen on the edit.
Yeah, we'll put it in the show notes. Yeah. 10x.kevineasterly.com.
Yeah, 10x.kevineasterly.com.
And then from there, they can get to the private Facebook group.
Multifamily straight to there, yeah.
Perfect.
It's a 10x apartment and franchise mastery.
That's awesome. So you invited me into this, and you've got it's actually, you've done a really good job, because there are a lot of Facebook groups out there, but you've really distinguished yourself because you want the community to be active, and you're like hounding people in a good way.
Yep.
You're hounding people to just talk about themselves. And hey, we want to get to know everybody, and how can we help you? How can we provide value to you? And you kind of got on to me because you added me to the group and I didn't even know what was going on. You're like, Brian, I want to hear from you. So you're like, hey, Brian, do a Facebook Live. So I did. And I mentioned something in my Facebook Live video that was in your group specifically about some specific things that I'm doing when it comes to like hedging against a potential, economic downturn. And you said something, you quoted the guy who's responsible for your hat. And you said, something about like money can't be scared, or you can't, what was it again? What was the quote?
That was just my quote. Scared money don't make money.
Scared money don't make money. I want you to talk about that for a second, because there we're inevitably going to hit some sort of correction in the market. We're at an all-time, we're in the longest bull run in history. So we're due for a correction. A correction's probably coming. There's actually some indicators that we are headed towards, some sort of correction. It doesn't mean that we're going to have that things are going to just fall off the cliff, but there are some indicators that we are headed towards that. And if I don't want to be accused of my money being scared, but I also want to be safe and conservative and make sure I'm in the right investment, because I don't want to lose a big chunk of money that I've spent the last 5, 6, 7 years acquiring. What say you?
So I agree. 100% you're correct. There are some indicators that, we might get a flatten down the road. Nobody knows. I mean, it's a crystal ball situation. Personally, I think there's deals out there to be had all over the place. If the deal makes sense, the deal makes sense. There's always deals. If the deal doesn't make sense, it doesn't make sense. You shouldn't be buying on appreciation anyway. You should be buying on cash flow. And as long as you have that 7 to 10 year, that's another thing about commercial loans is the loans are 7 or 10 years fixed, and then they go variable after that. Anyway, sorry. So if you, God, I just went off sorry, man, I just lost that great train of thought.
No, and I'm going to get you back on track. I love what you just said, and I want you to keep talking about this and expand on this, that you shouldn't be buying in, especially commercial, you're buying doors, you're buying for cash flow. You're not buying for appreciation. Talk about the difference between cash flow. Why is that important in a possible down market?
That's how you get burned in a market, is you buy for appreciation. And that's what we saw in 2008. And that's why people got so messed up on their finances. You buy apartments for cash flow. So the difference between cash flow and appreciation is you're buying it off cash flow. Your income, your gross income minus your expenses, minus your debt payment. How much do I have left over? That's what you're buying on. And then if the property goes up in value because the area goes up, good for you. That's just a bonus. But don't plan your numbers on appreciation.
And if if it goes down, the rents shouldn't really be affected by that.
No, I mean, you can give yourself a 15% stress test on your property. Drop the rents by 15%. And if you're still covering your bills or breaking even, you're good. And that way you just have a long-term loan. And so if we do hit something and it rides out the wave, you ride it out for a few years. Maybe you don't make as much money as you thought, but you're still making money, and your balloon's not up. You don't have a balloon payment.
Right. Because you got 7 to 10 years.
Correct.
Whatever your loan is. Before we go, Kevin, first of all, I appreciate all the stories, man. I love practical advice. And when you start telling stories of things that happen, the good and the bad, you start telling stories, I feel like that really helps people, really hammers home the point. And I feel like you did a great job of that. So I want to say thank you for sure for providing a lot of value to our audience. Before we go though, I want you to talk about this, because just as soon as a year ago, it's only been like a year since I asked you to come on the podcast, and you're like, no, I'm not ready for that. I'm not ready for that. And now all of a sudden I look up and you're all over, you're Facebook Live like every day. And you're building your personal brand. Mm-hmm. What's happened over the course of the last 12 months to where things have changed a little bit for you in your mind when it comes to your personal brand?
Well, you always have that block in your head that, even you guys probably, a lot of people here probably have that block in their head of, oh my God, I don't even know how to get to 100 units. Well, I have that block in my head. I had that block in my head. Oh my God, I don't even know how I'm going to get to 1,000 units. I'm just writing my goals down at 10x levels every morning. And all of a sudden these franchise opportunities came, and now it's enabling me to get where I want to go and get my 100,000 unit goal.
That's awesome.
That was a question you asked me, right?
Yeah. Just, why are you all of a sudden concerned about your personal brand?
Oh, and I've got a branding coach actually, because I was at this 10X growth conference, and I was like, you know what? I need to do that, man. I'm like, I really want to be, I really want to help people, and I want to build my own brand. What do I do? And so I got bought a course of how to brand yourself, and, tell people what you want, or tell people what you're doing, because if you don't tell people what's going on, how are they supposed to know what the hell you do? And if they won't. And so they're not going to go on your Facebook profile and start scrolling down and seeing what you're up to. They're not going to do that. So if you don't tell them, it could be your neighbor, and it could be your partner, investor, all kinds of stuff comes out of that. I've gotten all kinds of stuff in the last 12 months. Just people know what I do, people calling me for advice. And, that's what, and we're going to have a course coming up here soon, which I'll talk about on my Facebook group. But yeah, man, it's awesome. And I mean, embrace technology and use it the way it should be used. And you could, you could crush it, really get your brand out there.
Gotcha. No, it's awesome. And I figured that out about 3 years ago. It took you a while to come around.
It did, man.
But I'll tell you what, I give you credit. And I don't even think you know this. Actually, I'm sure you don't know it because I never told you. But I give you credit in 2000, probably late 2014, we're friends on Facebook, and you shared something from a guy who I consider to be the guru when it comes to branding and marketing, and just somebody I've been following religiously for the past 4+ years. And I owe it to you because you shared a video from Gary Vaynerchuk on your Facebook page. And I started watching. I was like, I was actually pissed. I didn't agree with what he was talking about. And it really got me into that culture. And now I'm just like, so like the way you feel about Grant Cardone is the way I feel about Gary Vaynerchuk. Like I try to emulate most of what he teaches.
He's really great too, man. I love him. I mean, that's what I'm trying. I'm trying to be a product of kind of like those two, like in your face, tell you what to do. Cause I mean, all these people that go to all these courses, take all these books, do all this stuff, but they don't do anything. It's like, take action, do something. So that's my whole thing behind my Facebook group is that I'm gonna make you take action. I'm gonna hold you accountable, and I'm gonna call you out if you don't. And that's the way I'm gonna coach, and that's the way I'm gonna tell you to do. So if you don't want to be held accountable, then don't even come in there. If you do, then it's a great environment, and everybody's holding each other accountable for stuff. And I want to just kind of throw this in there because we definitely have to go up against the clock. But I want to throw this in there as we wrap up. And this is from Grant, and I don't love Grant Cardone. I think there are going to be a lot of people who listen to this. They're going to be like, he's a little too over the top for me, a little too braggadocious for me, which it probably isn't really the case. But if you really follow him, and then people that I know, a lot of people that don't like Gary Vaynerchuk. He cusses too much. He talks about work. He never talks about like actually like slowing down and enjoying what you've built, and which I don't think that that's his message anyway, but people believe that that's his message. But Grant Cardone posted something just a few days ago, and I love this. Like he really hit the nail on the head. And I think that you're a product of this, and I'm a product of this as well. And there's maybe some people listening that don't really get it right now, but hopefully this will help you get it. Grant Cardone said, you need to be paying to get into a room full of influencers, full of people that can help you get to the next step. Like it is like, I never really thought about it this way, but you really and truly need to get into as many of these rooms as you possibly can with high level people, high level thinkers. I've been to 2 or 3 master, like this is a crazy time of year for me. I'm literally going to 4 events in a 5-week span. We're going to the Rod Cleaves next. And I don't usually do this. I usually only go to 2 or 3 a year. And it just happens to be just that time of year. I am paying money, sometimes some significant money to be in the room, masterminds, to be in the room with these influential people that are going to help me take my business to the next level, not just from a coaching standpoint, but now all of a sudden I'm networking with these people. I'm in business with these people. I've told this story before, but I went to an event and paid to go to an event just to meet Tom Kroll, and now we're in business together. And he was one of my, people that I looked up to, and one of my people I consider to be a mentor to me, just from afar. And now I'm in business with him. So, guys, the point of this, and Kevin's done this, I've done this, pay to be in the room with the right people, to network with the right people. And Grant Cardone said that, and I love. That's one of the few things he said that I love. Yeah, man. If you don't like you don't have to like everything about everybody on those mentors. Like they have a ton of good stuff and experience and advice, and take what you want, take pieces of them and whatever you want, take a little from Gary, a little from Grant, So I agree. And also, yes, go to those shows. I mean, they say 2 shows a year and get coaching. And read books every day. I mean, 10 pages a day is what I do. So if you do those 3 things, you're going to be successful very fast. Guys, go to 10x.kevineasterly.com. Get in this Facebook group. And I don't even care if you love multifamily or not. You need to be in this group because you need to be around high-level thinkers, high-level people, and Kevin's definitely one of them. Go friend him on Facebook. Kevin, we appreciate you, man. Appreciate all the value you've given today. Appreciate it, man. Hey, man, no worries. I'll be talking to you soon.
All right.
I'll see you this weekend.
See you, brother.